Piers Linney. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's a former dragon. He's on the board of British businesses and currently CEO of Moblocks, which helps small businesses. Great to see you, and thanks for fitting us into your busy day. Let me just put a couple of quick things to you that have been said by previous guests. Mark Littlewood from the Institute of Economic Affairs, there's a danger that the squeeze to fill a black hole will be overdone. Carl Emerson from the Institute of Fiscal Studies says, relax a little bit more. This is longer term. Some of the cuts won't be until the other side of the election. And finally, John Mills, who says there's a real danger that the combination of higher taxes and higher interest rates will kill off what you and Sarah and your type of people are seeking to do. So quick comment, over squeeze, longer term may be better, but killing entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, so it's a fine balance to get right, isn't it, Alastair? So what we have to do there, and what we're lacking in this country, is a long-term plan, a long-term vision for the country. And then we can stop sort of, putting out fires and worrying about what's happening next week or the next election in 2 years, and actually have a plan for the country. And then if you've got a plan, you've got a longer-term view, you can then make decisions that, that may be difficult today, but actually they fit into that framework. Right now, it was running around like headless chickens, and that's something that needs to change.
So the Emerson point about it being over a longer period than just Thursday, boom, is perhaps the most important of those 3 points I just quoted.
Yeah, so you've got the difficulties of recession maybe, but what I'm saying is you need a 10-year plan, and that's why politicians need to stop thinking about elections and start thinking about the country. We need to, I hate to say it, we need to have a long, cold look at Brexit and its impact and what we do about perhaps rejoining the single market.
Yeah, well, Hunt said this morning it wasn't an error, but it's proving perhaps more difficult to yield the benefits that it offered at the time. But I tweeted last night what my friend Camilla Tominey had said in The Telegraph, that it was fast becoming an environment in which it might look crazy to risk setting up a new business. And you put me in my place on social media.
Yeah, so I've set up a new business, Moblocks. We're here to help small companies. Entrepreneurs, like I said on Twitter, Alastair, they don't stop doing what they do because it's raining, because of a recession. These are dreams, ambitions, aspirations. And this is what the country needs. The growth is going to come from small businesses and our scale-ups as well, the kind of mid-sized growth companies. It's not coming from large companies. They're in decline. So if we want to, maintain our position in a sort of the global economic and political firmament, we need to focus on our small businesses, our entrepreneurs, our innovators, invest in R&D, make sure there are tax incentives, make sure they're not paying too much tax on exit, and that's where the focus needs to be.
Yeah, well, I'm going to pick up those last few words about tax on exit, because, again, we read from the briefings that 250,000 people will be drawn into higher rates of taxation because the threshold, the amount you can earn before you pay those higher rates of tax, going to be frozen. And 3 million ordinary consumers are going to be dragged into tax for the first time. And capital gains tax may be tinkered with as well. Now, I mentioned those 3 things because you're also a non-executive director of the UK government-owned development bank, British Business Bank, that's facilitated in recent times over £12 billion of financing for UK small and medium-sized businesses, and also operates the Startup Loan Company. With your finger on the pulse and ear to the ground, is that still a vibrant sector in terms of folk coming to you or the banks and saying, hey, we've got a brilliant idea, we are prepared to risk borrowing it, even at relatively high interest rates?
So I hate to correct you, sir. I'm now no longer on the board of British Business Bank. And also there was 90 billion facilitated, not 12, so there's a big number. So at the end of the day, capital will become more expensive. It will become harder to find. I'm raising money now myself, actually. And, it's there. The money is always there. But some funds, investors, are going to sit on their hands for a period of time, maybe up to a year. So the capital's there. It needs to flow. The government's then got to, and British Business Bank as well are working on this, they've got to find new ways of pooling capital, because the European funds, which funded a lot of finance going to small businesses and the regions, as that money's gone. So we've got to find our own money. And by backing down the hatches, going into a period of austerity and not having this long-term view on investing in innovation, in the really long run, is not going to do this nation any good whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I'm delighted to be corrected on both the scale of that borrowing and lending, which is good news. And secondly, it's intriguing because I promised my viewers and listeners that we'd be talking to people who were, as it were, at the coalface. And Sarah is anxious to come up next, and she's sitting here very patiently. But my final point is this to you. And I listened very carefully to your optimistic and positive tone. But despite all of that, do you share the Governor of the Bank of England's concern that whatever Jeremy does on Thursday, a recession for at least a period of time is inevitable?
Yeah, I mean, we're already in a recession, really. It's a question of how long it's going to be and maybe the impact of interest rates, how high they become, whether inflation's peaked, as I think it may have done. If it hasn't, we're going to see higher rates and a longer recession. But that doesn't mean that's the end. That means that a lot of strong foundations can be laid during difficult markets. You have to find efficiencies, be more productive. And UK businesses, you know, Alastair, are not as productive as they should be. So maybe this is the time to actually shed some of the fat and actually become a more efficient and productive nation.
Fascinating. Piers, lovely to talk to you again. Thank you for finding time for us this Sunday afternoon. And you keep in touch. You're always welcome on this programme or indeed anywhere on GB News. Piers Linney there, entrepreneur and all-round good egg who knows what he's talking about.